What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fourth album by T.I. Basically, this product is called King, and it came out in the spring of 2006. The thing about this particular product is this is one of the ones where T.I. started to full-blown kind of claim that he was the king of the South as far as that particular pitch kind of happened with it. He had a number of hits up to this particular point with some hit albums like Trap Music, Urban Legend, some of those type ones. Even I'm Serious was pretty damn good, I'd have to say. Also, the PSC album, 25 to Life, was a pretty great one. So just T.I. had a string of hit albums, I would have to say, just a number of hits, including some mixtape type fare with things like that, like the In the Street series and things that relative pitch and some PSC mixtapes, some of those type pitches that have, suppose, good string of those particular type hits. I'm definitely going to get to some more of these. There is some mixtape type fare I want to get to, including like an album, including like a mixtape that was like a Gangsta Grills tape that preceded this particular release that came out in early 2006, a few months before this particular album did, and that was Gangsta Grills The Leak, which just had leaked singles off this particular album and stuff like that. Some new songs. I'm gonna have to definitely get to that. That looked exciting as far as that pitch gonna happen with it. But also there were just some this album is the soundtrack to the ATL movie from early 2006. That's a pretty solid movie. I would have to say Big Boy and T.I. are in that particular movie as far as that pitch can happen. I kind of wish that ATL would have actually had a soundtrack because I definitely think it probably would have been Atlanta Charge and stuff like that. Just a bunch of good Southern rap type hits. Maybe there could have been like a D4L song on there, some folks like that, a good exclusive Young Dro song, some of those type pitches. It's a real crying shame that the ATL movie didn't have a soundtrack towards it because it definitely deserved to. But this is pretty classic album. I'd say this is what was considered the soundtrack to ATL as far as that pitch happens. But it's basically a Ti album. This is kind of the concept about it. This is definitely one of Ti's best. This is a classic album here, classic Dirty South type hit, classic swag rap type album. I would have to suppose in particular had 4 hit singles. Basically one of Ti's biggest albums just within that relative pitch at the time. What You Know was his biggest song. That's just a signature kind of ringtone heavy, this classic on Ti hit. I'd have to suppose real good ride out tunes, stuff like that. I'd have to say, the thing about this particular album is just the fact that there's some ride out songs on here. It's just got a good amalgamation of like some hit. This album has a good amalgamation of some hit styles. It has some good graceful type tunes like Good Life and Live in the Sky and some of those type ones. Has some ladies songs on there. Has some ride out type songs like UGK type style and Paul Wall type style. Some of those type pitches. Just some Texas type tunes I would almost have to say, despite the fact that T.I. is from Atlanta, to some pitches like that. It also kind of has some mixtape type fare on here. Some of those type pitches has some good nightlife. There's definitely, I really appreciate this album for being so nightlife oriented. It's not just nightlife like just going out to a club on a Friday, Saturday night. It's not just nightlife just going out to a nightclub Friday, Saturday night, but it's also kind of in the sense of waking up at like 8:30 p.m. and just enjoying like the nightlife as far as that pitch can happen. Just like typical kind of JJ, just kind of like demon time in like the 2000s when you think of folks like Ouija Mac and some of those type folks. This is a pretty night oriented type album, I'd have to suppose, for the most part. Most of these songs off this particular album, for the most part, are pretty much oriented past 5:30, 6:30 p.m. to about 5, 6 in the morning. Some of those type pitches. So it's just a pretty good album for that sort of pitch as far as as far as that particular vernacular kind of goes along with it. But yeah, this is a classic Southern album. I'd have to say definitely one of Ti's best. This deserved the accolades that it got, and this is one that had Ti kind of run 2006. I mean, back in 2006, there were a lot of folks saying that hip hop was dead and some of those type pitches just because the albums weren't selling. They weren't getting like certifications like platinum and gold and some of those type pitches. But this is definitely an album that did that and brought. This is definitely an album that brought rap back to life. I'd have to suppose just in particular. Ti dominated this whole entire year and was pretty much one of the stalwart heavyweights of 2006. I'd have to say so. It's a dope enough concept. But we'll go ahead and talk about the singles here. Basically, there were 4 of them, which is actually pretty vicious. I do like the concept of it. This like feels like a Southern fried version of like the stuff that Eminem was kind of doing. It was just a pretty dominant album. I mean, Ti normally gets to 3 or 4 singles, but this was just one of the most boisterous type ones. The singles on here were all pretty chart heavy and casual appeals. So this is a pretty casual album. I'd have to say on top of that. This is not just for like the hardcore charts and things like that. Just hardcore fans as far as that pitch happens with it. I'd have to say. So I just look after it. What You Know is the first single. This is a real highlighted one. This is produced by DJ Toomp, who's a classic Ti producer. I'd have to suppose in particular. The song is like a fantastic kind of ride out hit. I'd have to say, and triumphant kind of lead single. I would definitely feel like it has a very triumphant type feeling about it. Just very bravado induced and things like that. This has some emphatic vibes. I'd have to say, and this is like a super kind of swag rap. And this song is just a super kind of swag rap example of a song. I'd have to say in particular. So it's just some good highlighted type pitches to get this one. This one of Ti's best songs. This has a real emphatic type beat. This terrific production on here. Just works with a fantastic sort of sense. It's a real atmospheric type one. It's just a real heavy hitting type one. Makes you wish that there were more DJ Toomp makes you wish that there were more DJ Toomp produced songs on this particular album. But it's not like this is a shortcoming of an album. This is a classic. So despite the fact that you may not get a full blown kind of follow up to What You Know, I'd say Top Back's pretty close to that, I suppose. But What You Know is just a real highlighted triumphant type one that works pretty damn well. A great hit second single on here was Why You Wanna. This is an excellent type one to kind of get this dominant dominated the summer of 2006. Definitely remember the music video for this particular one. It's like a summer kind of vacay tune for chicas. I'd have to say it's like a summer kind of vacay tune for chicas. Kickback, I'd have to suppose, in particular, a pretty good concept for that. It's like a great beach tune. I would have to say great for some summery type fare, just within that sense, being near water, things like that. I have to say this definitely a smoke one kind of poolside fun of a song. I have to say, and the song is pretty swaggy. So yeah, Ti definitely had his swag going on this particular song. It's a real good concept, but just that stylistic type flair that this was popular, that this was popular throughout the mid 2000s, 2006, 2007. These songs were just rev with it. This is a very catchy chorus, just stuff like that. It's real affable type song. You can just feel the charm of this particular song. It just work. You can just feel the charm of this particular type of song. It just works pretty heavily. I'd have to suppose in particular, just a real nice summer type one. Just great suave type song to kind of get just within that atmosphere, I'd suppose. It's a great suave type song to get within that atmosphere, I'd suppose. Real great vacay type tune. Live in the Sky is the third single. This is another highlighted one. This definitely shows some songwriting on here. I'd have to say it's like a glistening kind of malaise single for the. This is a glistening kind of malaise single for the fallen. I'd have to say this is for fallen folks. Folks, you know, things that relative pitch, I'd have to say. This pitch is like that. This is kind of an evening makeshift haze of a song, I'd have to suppose, and this is some good songwriting, I have to say. It's a great pitch to get Jamie Foxx on the hook. Great collaboration. This an excellent song, has an excellent produced beat. This is a real malaise type piano type beat, just for like 6:37 p.m. Just got done with work, some of those type pitches. It's actually interesting to get a makeshift type song like this from Ti, because Ti was kind of crossing over into some makeshift type territory in 2006 with songs like My Love by Justin Timberlake, some of those type ones. But this is definitely one that has like the appeal. If he had had more songs like this is the sort of stuff that Tupac was kind of doing with songs like I Ain't Mad at You and some of those type ones, and just songs like that, like Life Goes On, some of those type pitches. This is some great songwriting on here, and the fact that this was a single is pretty excellent. This has the real marketable type appeal. It's a casual type hit, and it works pretty well. It's just a real affable type one that just has a lot of infectiousness about it. So, despite the fact that it's not a nightclub song or a ladies type song, it has some good catchiness on here. This didn't chart super heavily on the charts, but still a nice one to kind of get, just to realize that it had a music video and stuff like that for it. So it's a pretty nice one. And then Top Back is the fourth single. Now this is kind of a fusion. Really, the Top Back remix from In the Streets Volume 4 was the one that charted on like the charts in late 2006. But the original Top Back was kind of a charting single in mid early 2006 as far as that fair kind of happened. This is an excellent song. This is another Ti's best songs. This is another career highlight for Ti. I'd have to say two good hits. What You Know and this one are two excellent type ones just for some ride out type tunes. This is another ride out type song. I'd say pretty nice one for that sort of pitch. This is a marvelous kind of late single. This is a marvelous kind of late single with great ride out vibes. That has to say this is like a terrific kind of, yeah, Top Back is a terrific Manny Fresh beat and a nightclub smash, I'd have to say in particular. So the thing about this particular song is this is very affable type one. Once again, this had a remix that was pretty good, but the song did have a remix that was a charting single, but the original is a pretty superb hit, I'd have to suppose in particular. Definitely a pretty flattening type one. Just a real pounding type single that just has a lot of good damage about it. It just has a lot of good appeal. Just have to say about this particular one, it's a very hooky type song, has a very distinct and kind of catchy chorus about it. This works great. This is a great ride out type song that has it. This is a great ride out song. I just would have to say in particular, this one in combination with What You Know are some great ride out type tunes just to kind of get for some car centric type stuff. Just Top Back along with What You Know are some great car centric type tunes just to get for some ride out type pitches, just some good bravado, just out in the wind, things like that. Just so that relative pitch, just some superb type ones just to kind of have for some kind of, like, if you like Ambitions as a Rider by Tupac, some of that ride out type energy, these are just some good these are nightclub songs, but they also work with some great car type tunes as far as that pitch kind of happens. Just real kind of getting crunk, things like that, just blazing around town, things like that, just some relative kind of exhilarating type pitches to kind of get. So it's just some exhilarating type tunes. This is an excellent choice for a single, I'd have to say. This is an excellent choice. This is one that not every single artist manages to find the song like this that's just an affable type. Not every single artist manages to find the song like this that's just an affable type one, and one of the best on the album as far as the pitch kind of going for like a marketable type single. This is definitely one that works. I do like the original more than the remix, although the remix is pretty good. I would just have to say the original just has a real flattening type appeal that just works extremely heavily. Definitely one of the album's best songs that I'd say. Now, this is a classic album. This album's going to get a 10 out of 10, but this is definitely one of the album's best songs. It's a great nightclub and ride out type song, I'd have to say. So that's kind of the concept, but yeah, basically there's 17 songs on this particular album, and out of those 17, I wound up recommending to you 14. So it's a pretty good pitch just about it. Basically, the only 3 songs I didn't recommend on here was just King Back, Get It, and um, basically the only 3 songs I didn't recommend on this album was just King Back, I'm Talking to You, and Get It. So to talk about And talk about these songs. Basically, Get It was just kind of a flat type club type song. Normally, I would have liked a song with this relative pitch, but somehow the affability behind the song was just not quite as affable as it needed to be. It was just kind of a more clumsy type one. Didn't compare to songs like I'm Straight and Stand Up Guy and some of those type pitches that had a little bit more nightclub flair as far as that pitch can happen. So I'd also say Front Back was a pretty good one for that concept, but Get It was just one that was kind of a flat type one. I'm Talking to You pretty much had the worst beat on the album. This one was trying to be like a vicious type song, a real trap ride out type tune as far as that pitch can happen. But this, I don't know, the energy of this particular one was pretty vicious on here, pretty rugged, just within that relative sense, pretty thuggish type one to kind of get. But it just didn't really have the catchy type veneer of that particular one. This is definitely like a ride out type song and like a real black tea type. This is definitely like a ride out type song and like a black tea type appeal as far as that pitch can happen with it. But this wasn't quite as catchy as it probably needed to be. This really had one of the worst productions on here. I just think it probably needed a little bit more exhilarating type one because there are some ride out type songs. I'm trying to think of some ride out type songs that like Jeezy did or some folks like that or Lil Wayne, some of those type folks that had these type of songs that just were a little bit more catchy. But this was just not it. And then King Back was kind of a decent intro, had a decent production on there, but I don't know, just the amalgamation of this particular song was just not quite as affable. It just kind of went to be like a this is kind of like a rags to riches type story that just didn't really pull off the vibe quite as heavily as it needed to. But these are just minor complaints. This album is going to get a 10 out of 10. Chock full of hits on this particular album. Just would have to say it's a pretty damn well classic. I just would have to say in particular, is as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. So talk about some of the songs on here. Basically, I'm Straight is a real nice one. This is like a poppy kind of nightlife fun of a song. I'd have to say this is like social times to. This song's definitely some social times to get crunk. I would definitely feel like this is a great breezy kind of beat. I would have to say, and it's just an affable kind of. And the song's just an affable kind of swag rap hit. I'd have to say. So this is another of the best productions on here. Now most of the sounds pretty excellently produced, but this one just has a real breezy type feel. This real tropical almost. It's something you would catch in like the summertime. It's a good pairing with Why You Wanna, some of those type pitches, but this works like a pretty pop rap. This works as a pretty poppy pop rap ish type nightclub type song just within that relative flair of it. It's just a real nice one. BG and Jeezy are on here, so it's a pretty good pitch to get that one in particular, I'd have to say. Pretty good concept. Undertaker's a real highlight one. This is probably one of my favorite songs on the album, I'd have to say, in terms of the album cuts. This is a very mixtape like beat, I'd have to say. It's like a very gloomy and murky production that this song particularly kind of has. And this song is just some excellent nightlife fare, I'd have to say, and it's just good for some after hours type of appeal. So this is definitely one that you would listen to at 8:30, 9:30 p.m., just waking up around that particular time, just engaged in the nightlife, going right to the nightclub, getting ready to pick up a bottle, something like that. Some of those type pitches. It's kind of the nightlife type appeal, picking up snacks, hitting up, just standard appeal, checking your phone, some of those type pitches, some of the checking your phone, some of those type pitches, just kind of getting situated as far as that pitch can happen, just within that relative kind of concept. Just within that relative kind of concept. It's just a real affable type one. I just really Undertaker's just a real affable type one. The thing about this particular song has Young Buck on here. The song has Young Buck and Young Dro on here, so it's a pretty good concept to get that in particular. I definitely like the fact that Young Buck was on here. It's a good concept to get Young Buck just on these particular type songs, just because it was, not a ton of folks were fucking with him in 2006. Not like they weren't, but it's just kind of the concept. He just kind of had some low key type ones. It's kind of forgotten about that he was on this particular album. So it's a pretty good highlight to get these Young Buck and Ti type songs. And then Young Dro's on here as well. I do like these Young Dro and Ti type songs that he was on in 2006. Too bad that there weren't more Young Dro songs on like Ti albums as far as that pitch kind of happens, but he is on there. One of the best songs in the album, once again, is Bankhead. This is a real glistening type one. This is like a murky kind of posse cut, I'd have to say. This is almost Waffle House like music. I'd have to suppose pretty good concept for just some after hours, just hitting up like a restaurant, something like that. IHOP, Waffle House, some of those type places, Village Inn, some of those type places. Just the after hours blear, just kind of getting done with work, just kind of a steady cruise around. And the song is just a steady kind of cruise around in like the after hours type fare, I would have to say. And this is just a pretty dope song, I'd have to suppose. So it's just kind of the concept in particular about it, I'd have to say, just talking about the context of this particular song. Bankhead really has some hastiness about it. This has PSC on there, which is a pretty good pitch, and that includes Young Dro. So it's just basically like another bonus kind of PS. This is basically like another bonus kind of PSC type song on the same pitch as the 25 to Life type album, I would have suppose in particular. So that's a nice one. Good Life is a pretty highlighted one. This is definitely like a glissy and kind of suave blue blood living type tune. I'd have to say T.I.'s pretty good at these particular type songs. This works great with like Live in the Sky. I'd have to say this is a great Pharrell type hook on here. I definitely feel like. Fun fact about this song is originally Jay-Z was supposed to be on here, but he had scheduling conflicts, so they replaced him with Common. Still pretty good concept to get Common on there, but this is just like a makeshift pairing with this song is like a good makeshift pairing with Live in the Sky. So it's interesting that T.I. kind of had some makeshift type songs in here. Once again, this is not as trap oriented. This can kind of be a nightclub type. Good Life can kind of be a nightclub type song, but it's just kind of in a lot more suave type sense as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. A little bit more tuxedoed up and things like that, just looking a little bit more fresh and skippy as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. Just like the concept as far as that particular fare kind of goes. So I'd say Front Back's a pretty nice song. This has UGK on there. Definitely appreciate this one. This is like a vanilla kind of nightclub bounce of a song. I'd have to say it's like a good UGK cameo. I definitely feel like, and this is just kind of an exhilarating late day cruise music, I would have to suppose. Some good concepts for that. And this is just like a car centric kind of gem. So there are some cruise out songs in here. Like I was saying, Front Back's a nice one for that. Ride With Me is a nice one for that. Top Back, What You Know, some of these type ones. You Know Who's pretty nice one for that. And I would say Told You So. So there are some car centric type songs. Do like some of these appeals just because Ti kind of melds like the UGK type song with like some Atlanta type sound. Just because Ti kind of melds like the UGK type sound with like some Atlanta type sound and makes some cruise out type songs just for some car centric typeness. This works in a pretty good appeal as far as that kind of goes. Just and a lot of these are just pretty lazy type ones. They just work for like some evening type sense of just possibly going out to a nightclub, but possibly just kicking it with some shawties, some things like that, just within that relative pitch. Just would have to suppose it's kind of the concept about it. It's kind of the relative type atmospheres. Just I mean these work as kind of like an Atlanta fried version, like the stuff that Paul Wall and Bun B were kind of doing. Some of those type folks out of Texas. This has a real good pitch to get some of these. I'd have to say From Back's just a nice one. This is also a nightclub type song. I'd have to say this works as a pretty good affable type one. It's kind of a basic vanilla type tune just within that pitch, but it is a nice one. Hello is a pretty highlighted type hit. This has Governor on there, and that's a cat that isn't. Governor's an R&B cat that really isn't around that much anymore, which is too bad because he's a pretty good hook artist. I'd have to say it's like a Malaise kind of ladies tune. I'd have to say this like a back and forth type turmoil of a song. I'd have to suppose in particular. It's like a graceful kind of shopping mall type music. I would definitely say, and this is just good for some makeshift kind of day haze. So this one's just pretty anguish type one. It's kind of almost angsty. Just kind of the concept of it, just some moodiness about this particular song. It's like the concept of it in particular. Just kind of one that has the same sort of pitch and orientation as Why You Want It, but just not quite as glissy and blissful. I'd have to suppose in particular. It's just kind of a more anguish type one for like the makeshift type sense. This probably could have been a single. I would have said in certain senses if it had pulled off the vibe. If it had been maybe like a minor bit more affable, it probably would have been a great fifth or sixth single, something like that. I definitely think Ti could have probably had some more singles. I probably also would have went with Bankhead. That definitely could have been a single as well. Maybe I'm Straight could have been one. Some of those type ones, I'd have to say. There's some good appeals of it. Stand Up Guy's a pretty highlighted one. This is like a thrilling kind of night outing energy that this song particularly kind of has. This is Ti revved up. I would have to say it's a pretty good change of pace to get that one in particular. And this is just a good nightclub kind of activity song. I'd have to say, and this is a pretty dope song. This is definitely a highlight type one. This is another one that's kind of a little bit suaver. Just would have to say more. This one is kind of more graceful, just within that relative pitch. I'd have to say this is suaver type one, but it also works for like some standard kind of nightclub type fare, just within that particular type pitch. It's kind of an exhilarating type one, but it works pretty well for that. Good for some nightlife, I'd have to say. Ride With Me is like a good bravado and triumphant ride out energy that this song particularly kind of has. It's like a victory lap type music, I would have to suppose in particular. And this is just some outdoor bound kind of fun. So I definitely appreciate this one. A little bit more summer bound just within that relative pitch. There aren't a ton. Like some of this album does have some summer energy, but this is just more car bound, more so than Smoke a Stogie residential wise, just within that relative pitch. Just a little bit more, it's kind of cruise out type tone as far as that pitch kind of has with it. Just a good concept. This works great with like Front Back and some of those type ones. A little bit more lazy type energy. I'd say You Know Who and Told You So are some other nice ones for that relative kind of pitch about it, but I'd have to say these are just some good ones to kind of get for some car centric typeness just within that appeal. I'd say You Know Who's a nice one. This is like an out in the wind kind of type gem. You Know Who is like an out in the wind type gem, I'd have to say. It's like a good sports game type music, I'd have to suppose. Definitely good for going to a football game, basketball game, something like that. Just appreciating things in the bleachers as far as that pitch kind of has with it. Just some good night type appeal as far as that kind of goes. This has a mixtape type feel about it, I would definitely have to suppose. This is like some regular 2000s flair, I'd have to suppose, definitely. And this is just a good jive of a song. This is kind of one. It's a little, yeah, just more sports oriented, just stuff like that. Just kind of more night outing, just kind of crisp type feel, just about it in particular. Just one to kind of have for some socialization that's not necessarily night or dance club type pitch or even strip club type pitch, just within that relative sense. Just some good concepts for that. But this is also kind of like a car centric type song. I kind of feel like this would just be a little bit more bustled type one, maybe getting some errands done, something to that relative pitch, but it just works for a pretty good sense. It's kind of almost like a hustle song, but this kind of has like that ambition about it. I have suppose that's a nice one. And then Told You So is a pretty good highlight one. This is like a quality evening unwind type music. I'd have to say it's like a steady cruise around type. This song's like a steady cruise around type cut, I would have to say. And this reminds me of UGK. I would definitely feel like, and this is just kind of like a pick up a 40-ounce type bop, I would say in particular. So Told You So is some more victory lap type music. This kind of victory lap, romping around the neighborhood, some of those type pitches, just picking up swishers, 40 ounces, some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. It's a real good cruise out type tune that this has that relative sense. There are some cruise out type bops on here, just like the concept of that in particular, just some good stuff. Just some good nightlife, just overall. A lot of these, like I was saying, are just great for 5:30 p.m. forward until about 6 o'clock in the morning. Some of those type pitches. There may not be like morning type tunes on here. There's definitely not like breakfast IHOP type tunes within that pitch, but definitely for after hours IHOP, like three. I don't know if IHOP is open at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I know Village Inn and like Waffle House kind of are. Some of those type pitches, just to be able to say in particular, is just kind of the concept about it. Just some nightclub type appeal, like Undertaker, I'm Straight, Front and Back, some of those type ones. Some ladies type songs like Hello and Good Life and Live in the Sky, just some pitches like that. Just some good affable type appeal. Just has a lot of good styles that are showcased pretty well. And that's just the thing about this album. It's a varietized album, has a lot of great songwriting on here, and it's a Southern rap classic. I suppose that's a good concept about it. So this album gets a 10 out of 10. The social score, I'm going to go ahead and give a 10 out of 10 also, just because the affability of this particular album is just pretty high. I just would feel like T.I.'s character is on full display on this particular project, full of swag and charm as far as that particular pitch kind of has with it. Just some glitzy type of appeal. The lyricism works pretty well on here. T.I.'s a pretty compatible lyricist, so it has some good affable type charm. The guests on here work to their benefit. It enhances the project further. I'd have to say there's just some social jive on here. This is a pretty damn social album, full, like I was saying, full of nightlife, just things like that, those sorts of pitches. Is the concept of like this like dance club type songs and graceful type blue blood type songs, things like that. Some great cartoons and ride out type music, and just some thrilling kind of out and about kind of energy, just vehicle bound and just nightclub bound as far as that pitch can have with it. Some great stuff there. So 10 out of 10 social. In terms of the future, like T.I.'s been kind of quiet in recent years. He said that he's going to drop one more album and then retire, which is an unfortunate pitch about it. But there is plenty more to get to. I'm definitely going to review that Gangsta Grillz The Leak mixtape. That one really piqued my interest. I'm gonna have to see about that one in particular. And there is some other stuff. There's albums like Paper Trail I need to get to, and Trouble Man, some of those type pitches. So we're definitely gonna get to some more of these. But this is a Southern rap classic and definitely a mid 2000s rap classic, and just pretty much one of the best rap albums of the 2000s, I'd say. So I highly recommend it.